Faith. The Awakening of Faith. By Ashvagosha. Translated by Timothy Richard. 1907, The Awakening of Faith by Ashvagosha. This edition was created and published by Global Gray. Copyright Global Gray 2020. Get more free ebooks at globalgrayebooks.com. Contents. Opening Hymn. 1. Reasons for writing the book. 2. The Fundamental Doctrine of the Mahayana Faith. 3. Expositions of the Mahayana Faith. 4. The Practice of the Mahayana Faith. 5. The Advantages of the Practice of the Mahayana Faith. The Closing Hymn. Translator's Supplementary Matter. The Great Physician's 12 Desires, Vows. The Creed of Half Asia, to Sin King.
Opening Hymn. I yield my life to the all, soul, full of good, in wisdom all complete, in power all divine, in pity would save all. To law which does embody the archetype of all. To church which does contain the archetype in seed, that men may be delivered from doubt and evil ways, get faith in the great school perpetuating God.
1. Reasons for writing the book. Question 1. What are the reasons for writing this book? Answer. The reasons for it are 8a. Generally speaking, it is to induce all living beings to depart from the way of all sorrow and to obtain the highest happiness, instead of seeking the glitter of fame and the wealth of this world. B. It is to make clear the fundamental idea of the incarnate God, Tathagata, in man, and to lead all beings in the right way, avoiding error. C. It is to lead those ripe in goodness to continue in the Mahayana faith without failing. D. It is to enable those in whom the root of goodness is very small to cultivate faith more and more. E. It is to show how to remove evil hindrances and to strengthen well the mind, to keep far from mad pride, and to see through the deceits of vice. F. It is to show how to study and correct the errors of ordinary men and the errors of the two inferior schools, the Hinayana, or elementary school, and the Madhyana, or middle school of Buddhism. G. It is to show the means by which one may ascend to the abode of God, Buddha, and never lose faith. H. It is to show the benefits of this faith and to exhort men to practice it. These are the main reasons for writing this book.
Question 2. As the Sutras, or classic Buddhist scriptures, explain these things fully, what need is there of repeating them? Answer. Although the Sutras have discussed these things, yet as men's abilities and attainments are different, the reception of instruction is necessarily different. When the incarnate God, the Tathagata, was on earth, all men were able to understand him. His body and mind far excelled those of all other men. When he delivered his perfect words, all living beings, though different in kind, understood him alike, and therefore there was no need of explanation. But after the Tathagata's death we find that some men, after widely reading our sacred scriptures, have the power unaided to understand them. We find that others, after only hearing a little of the sacred scriptures, have the power unaided to understand much. We also find that some have not sufficient intelligence to understand the scriptures unassisted by extensive explanations, whilst we find that others dislike voluminous writings and prefer a terse style which embraces many principles, and which they are able to understand. Thus this book is written for the last class of men which desire to know the general principles of the great and profound law of the Tathagata with its infinite applications.
2. The Fundamental Doctrine of the Mahayana Faith. Having explained the object of writing this book, we now proceed to consider the fundamental doctrine of the Mahayana Faith. The great school, Mahayana, speaks of the eternal soul of the universe, his nature and his attributes. By his nature is meant the soul of all living beings. The soul embraces that of saved and of unsaved beings, and it is this universal soul that characterizes the great school. For it is the archetype's true eternal form which is the nature of the Mahayana faith, and the archetype's temporary form in life which is able to make manifest the nature, form, and use of the Mahayana faith. B. As to the attributes of this soul, they are 3. The first is the vastness of its nature. All things are originally one and the same and an eternally fixed quantity in the true model. The second covers its vast manifestations. In the person of the Tathagata, the true model form, there are infinite possibilities stored up as in a womb. The third is its vast power. It is able to produce all good among all classes of unsaved beings. All the enlightened Buddhas follow this Mahayana faith, and all the Bodhisattvas attain to the perfection of Tathagatahood by the methods of this faith of the new Buddhism.
3. Expositions of the Mahayana Faith. These expositions are of three kinds: A. Those about the meaning. B. Those about the correction of erroneous conceptions. C. Those about the different steps of progress. As to the meaning of the One Soul, there are two aspects. 1 is the eternal transcendent soul. 2, the other is the temporary immanent soul. These two aspects embrace everything, for they are really one. 1. The eternal state of the soul. The soul or mind of the true model is the great essence of the invisible and the visible worlds. As to the nature of this one soul, it is the same in all forms. To think it is different in different forms is only a false notion of the world. Once we penetrate beyond forms, it is discovered that all the different forms of the universe are not real differences of soul adin, but different manifestations of one real power. Hence it has always been impossible to speak adequately, to name correctly, or to think correctly of this one soul, the real essence of things, which is unchangeable and indestructible. We therefore name it the true essence, or the true likeness, or the true reality, or model. But all nomenclature of these matters is imperfect, and if one follows superficial thought, the true meaning cannot be found out. Even though we call it the true model, it has no form. It is because language in its extremity fails us that we coin a new term to avoid ordinary ideas. But the nature of this archetype is a reality that cannot be destroyed, for all things are true though they cannot be truly pointed out to the senses, and all forms are really only different manifestations of the one true model. It should be remembered that this is beyond ordinary language and beyond ordinary thought, therefore we name it the true model.